if most of the population could actually be taught about this kind of stuff, then there may be a reduction in these kind of misinformation campaigns, because if people actually knew about this stuff, they could easily see this as bullshit. But people don't. People aren't taught about this, so they just say, oh, he's the Prime Minister, he runs the bloody country, whatever he says must go. And we all know as trans people that this means that the violence rates are going to increase for the community. And the issue is me crying in this video is going to label me as some sort of emotional, like, snowflake trans person, and I don't even care. Hello, I didn't mean to start this with a sigh, but screw it, let's start it that way. So, I've had a cold, and I'm still a bit unwell at the moment, but the world is burning around me, and so, you know, this video cannot wait. I'm just going to quickly get into this. You guys have seen, maybe you guys haven't, but the UK Prime Minister and a bunch of politicians that are BANS have basically just been attacking trans people. I mean, there's not really much of a way that you can go about this, and it's all a distraction tactic. So, you know, basically a distraction tactic showing that they're terrible politicians and they're doing a terrible job, but oh, let's distract it with, you know, like aliens and trans people. So they will do anything to distract the public from the shitty job that they're doing, but this type of distraction is very harmful and dangerous and will cost lives. So this dude named Steve Barclay, some kind of politician, I'm not gonna lie, I don't even know, he just says he wants to, I'll show you, I'll just show you.
To deliver the long-term change the NHS needs, we need a relentless focus on patient outcomes. And that means prioritising frontline resources. It does not mean spending huge sums of taxpayers' money on diversity consultants or hiring bloated internal diversity and inclusion teams. And it does not mean ignoring patient voices, especially women's voices, when it comes to the importance of biological sex in healthcare. If we do not get this right now, the long-term consequences could be very serious for the protection of women and future generations. And conference, I know as Conservatives, we know what a woman is, and I know the vast majority, and the vast majority of NHS staff and patients do too. That is why I ordered a reversal of unacceptable changes to the NHS website that erased references to women for conditions such as cervical cancer, and stopped the NHS ordering staff to declare pronouns to each new patient. And that is why today I am going further by announcing that we will change the NHS constitution following a consultation later this year to make sure we respect the privacy, dignity and safety of all patients, recognise the importance of different biological needs and protect the rights of women.
So, yep. Yeah. I need a moment. I'm just so done as a trans person. Screw it, I'm just gonna leave the crying in because, like, this was what came out first about how, or at least what I saw first, about how they want to basically roll back rights for trans people and, you know, pronouns and feeling respected in the healthcare sector. And specifically, this is saying they want to remove diversity funding from the NHS. And there's a further interview which just really clarifies what he was saying. So not only is it going to be more difficult, like, you know, if this fully goes through, it's going to be more difficult to go and speak to a doctor because you're going to feel like you're not going to be respected. They think it's unnecessary to have any sort of like diversity training sections because that's just wasted money. But because of untrained staff, I was once told that because I was trans I couldn't get a blood test because I probably need to pay for it. So I wanted a blood test so that I could check my levels, and instead they told me I had to wait, and I had to wait while all of these cis people got their bloods done so that they could check on the system manually because I was trans, if I was even allowed a blood test. Of course I was allowed a blood test by my GP. Sorry, I'm so emotional. You know what? I'm not going to apologise. I'm so emotional in this video, and I'm pissed. And there's more that I'm going to react to that's going to make me even more pissed. So, you know. But I have such anxiety with going to the doctor, and I currently have issues with my health, and I need to go. But I'm now even more concerned and more stressed, and I have terrible anxiety, and the anxiety is actually worsening my health conditions. So hearing this, being unwell and all this kind of stuff, with everything else that's going on in the world, and how I'm just done with the crap that trans people have to deal with. I'm just done with it. And some people, which I will get into later, like my family and other people like this, who just don't take it seriously and don't see the impact that it has on trans people's lives. And the trans people watching, you guys know, you guys probably feel this kind of frustration and anger and upset at what is going on, and let's watch this video. And I just want to say it, there's nothing like being made to wait while other people who are cis get to go before you. So not only did this happen at the doctor's, but I made a video about this a while ago. I was once in the barber's, and the barber told me he wouldn't cut my hair because I was trans. And then I had to, and he said, you can wait till the other person can come in and cut your hair. And I had to wait. I sat there and waited while all these cis men were, this was out when I was out as a trans man, I had to sit and wait while all these cis men went up and got their hair cut. All I wanted was a fade, literally like the most like generic mask haircut. And I had to sit there and wait while I watched all these other cis men go up first. Eventually, for my own respect, I left that barber's, but I didn't leave that doctor's because I needed the health checkup. And I had to sit there and wait, and you know how that feels? How othered you feel when that happens. So let's see what he's actually proposing.
Trans women will be banned from female hospital wards under the Health Secretary's plans to restore common sense to the NHS, Emma.
Yeah, so this is...
Transgender women are to be banned from female wards. I mean...
Steve Barclay, the Health Secretary, talking about pushing back against...
Steve Barclay's the Health Secretary. Okay, well, that's great. We have a transphobic Health Secretary. And you'll see later in this video we have a transphobic Prime Minister.
It's wokery, among, you know, in the NHS and on hospital wards. And he's saying that actually we all have the right to dignity, we all have the right to single-sex spaces within our hospitals, that we don't want trans women on female wards. I think that in hospitals, you are in a vulnerable position, whether you're ill, you're recovering from an operation, you're having a baby, you need to know that you feel comfortable, that you are safe, and that you are not going to be made to feel in any way uncomfortable or anxious. If you're an older lady, you're going to the lavatory in the middle of the night, you're wearing a hospital gown, I think it is right to keep hospitals single-sex spaces, I think.
So where do we put the trans people? Do we have a one that says, a nice little room that says, you know, like trans people go here instead of a, you know, a hospital for the cis people and for the trans people? Do we have a sign outside the toilets that says, oh, trans people pee here? Like, what kind of segregation shit are they trying to, like, propose? And if this stuff goes through, this is only the first step. And it's been happening gradually. In America, we've seen what's been going on with the trans state of emergency, and now in the UK there's definitely a trans state of emergency, but we haven't called one because the people who usually call states of emergency are the same people that are causing this to be a thing, the government. It's ridiculous. So, a study into women in hospitals didn't find one single complaint about trans women in hospitals. None. Not a single complaint. This at its core level is the beginning to segregating trans people from particular parts of society. First it'll be this, next it'll be the bathrooms. But right now we're focusing on what they're actually proposing, which is moving trans women and out of these spaces. But then what happens with trans men? No one's really thought about this or looked into this, and they haven't found a single complaint. Let me check the numbers here. So they submitted 102 Freedom of Information requests to NHS Foundation Trusts, and that showed that not a single problem had been raised by fellow patients about transgender women on female wards in UK hospitals. And there was just none. There's no evidence. And I'm pissed off. Let's just have a look at what...
I think this is absolutely correct, and it makes sense, and it very much resonates with what patients want.
Does it not?
And it very much resonates with what patients want. Shut your mouth. Are you... Tell me a number. Tell me a statistic. I've done a master's degree. That's why this video is so late. I have so much backlog of videos, but this needed to... I needed to do this, and I needed to make this video. And if you're watching this right now, whether you're an ally or you're trans or whatever, get your voice out there, post on your story. If you think it's a safe environment to do so, speak to your loved ones. I've tried speaking to mine, but we'll get into that after this next bit. Give me some numbers. There are no fucking numbers. And it's just blatant bigotry and transphobia, and they're trying to say there's a reason behind it, and they're trying to say people are requesting this. Yes, I know the UK is known as TERF Island, which is Trans Exclusionary Radical Feminist Island, but dang, like...
There are
Changing rooms.
men out there who, to all intents and purposes, look extremely masculine and extremely male, and they would then therefore be in female wards.
Nick, can I say something? And I've always, I think it's a very...
This is nonsense. 0.5% of people in the country are trans, at best. That means on the average ward, the number of trans people is going to be none.
Yeah, as you said, we are such a small percentage. You can work on case-by-case bases, but as mentioned, there have been no reports of any complaints of trans women. And so where are the numbers? There are probably TERFs asking these people and politicians and things, oh, can you make sure trans women aren't allowed to be on? But there is no fundamental backing as to why that is justified. And there is no fucking statistics. And like, they'll use an example of one person they knew that was a trans woman that did something inappropriate or something, and then they'll say, oh, the trans community is trying to fully close our eyes to this. Literally no one is saying that trans people are these perfect, empathetic, never do anything wrong, never assault, never harm anyone people, right? No one is saying that. We're just saying we're like the rest of people. We're like everyone else. And no one is saying that if a trans person does something bad, they shouldn't be reprimanded for that. We're just saying we should be allowed to live our lives the same way that cis people seem to be able to as easily.
And it also shouldn't be controversial for parents to know what their children are being taught in school about relationships. Patients should know when hospitals are talking about men or women. And we shouldn't get bullied. And we shouldn't get bullied into believing that people can be any sex they want to be. They can't. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's just common sense.
Everyone clapping. Everyone clapping there. I don't even believe in hell. They just deserve some kind of suffering. I don't necessarily believe in hell. I'm agnostic. I don't know. If there is one, they need to go to it. If not, lifelong suffering. Cool. Or if they change their minds, then we're Gucci. And, you know, if they actually decide to support the community, it's despicable. His little bloody smirk after he says that, and he sees that the whole room of absolute cunts are like, got his back. And he's just like, you know, I'm just so quirky.
Into believing that people can be any sex they want to be.
So this part where he says, bullied into believing that people can be any sex they want to be. No one is saying that. Okay. I think there's a lot of things that people will often say. So, a lot of people see that trans people that will say, oh, I've got my like the trans women who will say, oh, I've got tampon, you know, I'm going to get tampons, or, you know, oh, my period. These kind of rhetorics, right, where trans people are pretending that they are born cis. That is a coping mechanism for trans people in many cases. And the reason why trans people need so many coping mechanisms is because we don't have any support or funding for mental health services to help us get through these things. And therefore, a lot of us, some of it's just a joke, like some people are just, you know, trans women are just joking about having a period, and some people are doing it to soothe themselves and their dysphoria. And of course, no, you know, doesn't think of that. But that's where they're getting the idea that and they've just grabbed that and taken it as like, oh, trans people are trying to say that they can just transform into a new sex and change their fucking chromosomes and body. Like, literally no one is saying that. And the small percentage that are using it as a coping mechanism. And it's the same as stealthing and stuff. However, most trans people are very aware that our chromosomes are not... Like, I'm non-binary, and I used to identify as gender fluid. I still kind of do, you know, sort of non-binary, pangender, whatever the word I put to it is, and sometimes gender neutral. I don't think my chromosomes or my body is gender neutral. I know that I was born as a female with the chromosomes, like with XX chromosomes. I know that I went on testosterone. I know the reason I've made myself look androgynous is because of all of those things, and I've had surgery and top surgery. There was a trans woman I was watching, and she said, I'm very aware that I'm not like cis women. You know, I'm aware that my body is different. I'm not going to have the same, you know, I'm not going to have my menstruation cycle. I'm not going to have this and that. I'm a different kind of woman, but I'm still a woman. He just... saying stuff that isn't even true, that the community isn't even trying to say, and people are cheering and clapping, and it's ridiculous.
They can't. A man is a man and a woman is a woman. That's just common sense.
No one is saying that anyone can alter their chromosomes. No one is saying that anyone can transform into completely a male or a female. But he's just stating it like most of us are. And people are believing him. People are like, oh yeah, it is crazy that the trans community say that kind of stuff. And then we have to answer stupid fucking questions from people who are like, oh, well then, why do you think that, you know, like trans women are really women when you know that their chromosomes are like this? And then I have to say this stuff again. I have made so many videos about this. So many trans people have made videos about this. You can Google and you can, you know, like you can see it easily on the internet. Yet I still get these dumb questions and I will not waste my time answering them anymore. I'm an open book, but just spend some time looking first before you ask me. Thank you, it's not my job. And it should be the job of schools, and it just isn't, because the government's like this, and of course they're not going to teach kids that. And they've just said we deserve the right to know what our kids are being taught in schools about he's talking about gender, basically, in this scenario. And this stuff would be solved, like a large chunk of this stuff would be solved if we actually educated people on this kind of stuff. Now we're going to talk about my family. I was sat outside last night and after already having issues with my family being kind of, you know, mostly terrible people, I was sat outside with my partner, Max. We're just chilling, you know. I was chatting about starting a trans revolution because I'm honestly done with it all. You know, just having a joke about that with Max. Being like, we all need, you know, just having a deep conversation about it and chilling outside. My mum walks down the stairs and she goes, oh, hey, you right? And I go, I'm planning a revolution. And she goes, oh, what kind of revolution? I'm in. And I was like, oh, this is positive. And I go, oh, a trans revolution. And she goes, oh, I don't think I'd be part of that one. I'm anti-vax, so I might be part of the anti-vax one, but not the trans one. That might seem like it doesn't make any sense, but previously, during the pandemic, she has told me that she thinks that the vaccines could have turned me and others trans, and that vaccines and these injections and these modern medicines could have turned us trans. And this is the kind of rhetoric that fester and grow and just mutate in an environment where people are not properly educated about trans people. I've tried to educate her, she doesn't listen. I think she's like an outlier or something. But if most of the population could actually be taught about this kind of stuff, then there may be a reduction in these kind of misinformation campaigns, because if people actually knew about this stuff, they could easily see this as bullshit. But people don't. People aren't taught about this, so they just say, oh, he's the Prime Minister, he runs the bloody country. Whatever he says must go. And we all know as trans people that this means that the violence rates are going to increase for the community. And the issue is me crying in this video is going to label me as some sort of emotional, like, snowflake trans person, and I don't even care, because I've been called everything under the sun by the people that follow these kind of people. And it breaks my heart thinking about, you know, I have people now that keep me going. Like my partner Max, my best friend Abby. Like, my best friend Abby means the world to me, and she's always been there for me. My nan and stuff, and I just think about the people who are going to be dealing with mental health issues that are going to hear this and just feel like they have no hope, and the violence towards trans women who already are vulnerable enough. And I'm so sorry that you have to deal with this, and that people can't just see how silly this is, and that there are actual people who believe this and back it up, and then, or there are people that, for example, my dad, he's a Conservative. Anything that the Conservatives will do, my dad will back. And I think he's upstairs right now, he can probably hear me. I don't even give a shit, to be honest. It's so dark in here, let me turn the light on. So, you know, that you might have the same experience with people in your family who, you know, like my dad, he drove me to my top surgery. You know, he picked me up from the place, helped me out for a few days, helped me with money, helped me, you know, afford things, afford some of my testosterone and some of my surgeries. And my mum gave me money for surgeries, you know, and that's when I start to feel, okay, maybe it's salvageable. But I just had a conversation with him, and I think it was the epitome of these kind of people who, they're not necessarily anti-trans, but they vote Conservative and they back up these kind of people. Well, I went upstairs, bumped into him in the kitchen, and I went, oh yeah, well I might be going to a protest at some point. And he goes, oh, what protest? And I was like, oh, the trans protest. Like, we're not, you know, we're obviously all really pissed at what's going on at the moment and we're not going to let it stand. But, you know, I really want to go. And so I said that, and I said, oh, the trans protest. And I'm like, because it's ridiculous what's really been happening. And the fact that they are trying to segregate trans people in hospitals, and this is going to increase the violence rates towards trans people. And he just stood there silently. And we've had so many of these conversations where I've said, what do you think about the Conservative Party doing this? This is going to increase violence rates against people like me, your own child. And they every time just stand there silently. And when this just happened, before I made this video, and I knew I had to make this video and include this bit of information, he stood there silently, and I went, you know what the problem is? There are cis people like you that will stand by silently while this stuff happens to a vulnerable members of the community, and in this instance, your own child. You stand there silently and let it happen, and if anything, vote for the people that have said this stuff. If him or any of my family vote Conservative, I will never speak to them again. I'm already on the verge of cutting myself off from my family, and I'm kind of mentally starting to, because I know it's difficult. Physically I live here with them, but mentally I'm starting to cut myself off from them, because I know that this toxicity and this level of standing by, one being transphobic, one just standing by and letting it all happen, it just can't be in my life. And it really does suck. And I've been coming to terms with this over the last week with all of this stuff going on, and their response, which is almost nothing, you know, nonchalant. You know, like, oh, well, you know, it's whatever. Not like their child's safety is being put at risk. I have been assaulted, physically and mentally violated in so many ways by transphobes in my life, and by people that, you know, just want to hurt me for the fact of being trans. I've heard so much on the internet. I used to have a YouTube channel. I mean, I still do, but I hardly post. But I used to post a lot on this channel, and the comments I would get, and I post a lot on Instagram, and the DMs I get, and the comments I get, and in real life, and the little tiny microaggressions that you see in day-to-day life that only you as a trans person realise, but as soon as you mention it, you get called sensitive. Say, oh, that's hardly anything. Why'd you get sensitive by that? It's because it's every single second of my bloody life being trans has caused some kind of issue. Until I'm around the people like my community or my partner or my best friend or people like that where it isn't a problem, where me being trans doesn't really matter. But in the wider community, apparently it does, and I'm sorry to kind of bum anyone out by this video of me having an emotional rant and stuff. And I know trans people are very aware of the situation, and I don't mean to bring it down, and I just want to say, like, you know, I'm here for you, we're all here for you, and the community is here, and we've got each other's backs, and we're going to fight, and we're going to make it better. But right now it sucks. What I said to my dad is what I say to everyone who's watching who might not be trans, but might be an ally or trying to be an ally or is watching out of curiosity. But I said to him, as he was stood there in silence, like he has and like my parents have the last few days when I've brought up these conversations, because they'd rather ignore or avoid the conversation than actually have a deep, meaningful conversation about this kind of stuff to help enact some change with me. I said, well, you're part of the problem. It's those who are silent, who stand by, who are part of the problem. If you see this stuff happening to a vulnerable community, who's a very small community, even if we protested by ourselves, it wouldn't be enough. Even if we even if we rose up and had a revolution, which I personally am here for, we are such a small percentage. We need allies. This is not me starting a revolution, but also not me starting a revolution. But we need allies. We need, you know, if you're watching this and you're not trans, people often don't take trans people seriously, as you can tell. And so if you're not trans, but you're an ally, speak up right now. Speak to your family members who are bigoted. put something on your story, make a Facebook post that these transphobic Facebook mums will see. Put the word out there, speak to your trans friends or trans people online, or look it up. Make sure you're not spreading misinformation, but make sure you're getting information out there on behalf of the trans community, because the schools and the government are not going to educate people on this. Unfortunately, we must do this, and we need the help of our cis allies, because yeah, we're going to need every bit of help we can. And it's, yeah. Anyway, it's I think seeing how my parents reacted like it was nothing, and me actually crying in front of them on a few occasions about this kind of stuff happening, and just being so hurt by everything that's going on, and people in my life, including them, being almost so nonchalant about it, or being completely silent, offering no support. You are part of the problem if you're doing this. Please change. Especially if you have families and family members. You will make them feel so unloved when you do that. And if my family members are watching, I hope you know what kind of person you are and how you should change. So I'm a forgiving person. I'm willing to forgive. So if my family members want to pop up and see this, I'm done trying to speak to you in person, so that would be great. And if you're showing this to the family members, if you've seen this video and you've shown this to your family members, or you've found this and you have trans family members who are going through this kind of stuff, and you have the same rhetoric or silence that my parents do, you're going to lose your trans child, whether it be through them taking their own life or them cutting you off, because no one wants to deal with your... I'm trying to be level-headed. I'm trying to be level-headed in this video, but it's not really worked out. But yeah, you need to go and hug your child and give them support and speak with them. Just listen to them and say that you may not understand, but that you're there for them, and that this stuff is ridiculous. You know, just try and have some empathy. I hate the last few videos I've had to teach people empathy, and I hate having to do this. It's not my job to teach you guys how to be empathetic. And I just don't think I have anything else to say. I'm going to edit this video right now and get this out as soon as possible, because this is an emergency. This is a trans state of emergency all over the world. But especially in the UK right now. You might have seen this video, which I really quickly need to add in because it says a lot about him. An unelected, might I add, Prime Minister thinks about the trans community. So I'm going to say a trigger warning before this because he's transphobic. He speaks about derogatorily about the genitalia of trans individuals, so...
At the same period of time over the period, you may have noticed Ed Davey has been very busy. Like me, you were probably seeing that he was busy trying to convince everybody that women clearly had penises. And I was reflecting, you all know I am a big fan of everybody studying maths to 18. But it turns out that we need to focus on biology to 18.
You know what? People who support this man and this government, and I'm not saying any other politician is much better, because I think they're all right wankers, really. But if you support this person, you are part of the problem. Okay? If you stay silent while this stuff is happening and don't talk up, you're part of the problem. My parents are part of the problem. People like that are part of the problem. All those people laughing in that room because they want to fit in, they want to look good for big man Rishi, like, they are part of the problem. Please don't be part of the problem. We have enough problems. Thank you. Okay. I think an exceptionally important note to add is that people are going to feel less likely to go to hospital. and they're going to feel less likely to go to domestic abuse shelters and to call and seek help for violence in their own home, or to report sexual assaults and things like this. And it just breaks my heart. People are already vulnerable and already at a high rate of being assaulted compared to the general cis population per percentage, and yet they're going to feel less likely to get any help, and it's just, I can't. What is going on? We have so much else to focus on, and this is it. This is what everyone's freaking out about. Us, just me being non-binary, chilling, vibing. Okay, just not doing any, like, we are not affecting you. And I know it's a tactic to get everyone to look the other way from all the shitty stuff they're doing in you know, the government and the bad job that they're doing and how everything's going tits up. Just don't use us as your scapegoat, you puny troglodytes. You mean nothing. 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 But unfortunately, you've been put on like a pedestal of transphobia, so that's fun. Okay, I'm gonna stop. I've been ranting for so long, but I needed to get this all out because I'm fed up, and I know you all are too, and I appreciate you all, and thank you for watching. I have loads of videos in the backlog, hopefully some funnier ones coming up, some lighter hearted ones, but there has been a lot going on, so it will be a mix. But yeah, thanks for watching this, and I'm so sorry. On behalf of these kids, I am so sorry. So, yes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.